Breaking the cycle. Why the MMTLP community sticks to failed tactics, and why a constitutional sit-in could win. Produced by the Boat Rocker. I'm Allan S. Billehus. I have a master's and education specialist degree. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor as well as a vocational expert. I'm also a fellow shareholder of MMTLP, MMAT, and TRCH. If you've been in this fight like I have, you know the frustrations, the endless halts, synthetic shares everywhere, and the regulatory stonewalling. But not just them, we get gaslighting and stonewalling from the SEC, FINRA, as well as our congressmen and senators. Today, we're diving deep into why our current approaches aren't working and how a bold, new, proven strategy could change everything for us. So stick around. This could be the exact shift we need as a community. Before we jump in, I have a quick trigger warning. This presentation critiques our tactics with evidence from psychological research and historical data. It might challenge some of your views and beliefs, which would cause cognitive dissonance. If you're open to objective analysis, let's proceed. Also, historical patterns suggest Congress and senators might delay until after December 8th, 2025. They've lied to us before. They've lied to us for 3 years. Could they be lying now? Promising anything just to get past the December 8th, 2025 date? Why do we keep trusting them? Let me tell you why you're here. You know something. You felt it your entire MMTLP investment life. Something's wrong with our market, and now something's wrong with our community. It's like a splinter in your mind. Do you know what I'm talking about? The FINRA fraud, the December 8th, 2025 data shredding event that's about to occur. And here we are with our perfunctory efforts, doing the same thing over and over again. We're only focusing on getting evidence, which has nothing to do with enforcements. And everything we've done for the last 2 years have failed. Complete silence. The FINRA fraud matrix is everywhere. It's in your brokerage statements, your X timeline, and the endless U3 halt post. It's the world pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. That you are influenced by collective fatalist beliefs. We're also susceptible to groupthink. No one can be told what the MMTLP fiasco truly is. You have to see it for yourself. The stock market system is illusion, and it runs deep. It's not just with MMAT or MMTLP. We know the story of AMC and GME, GTII, Finger, Tesla, among others. What has occurred to us has occurred to multiple companies. The only thing that makes us different is we were spun out privately, and now we're in a forever halt. In the MMTLP saga, refusing to consider new tactics in face of all the evidence that we've collected and how we've been treated by FINRA, the SEC, Congress, and senators over the last 3 years, and still expecting to get different results with the same tactics. A constitutional sit-in has a success rate of 80%. But despite the evidence of its success, as a community, we're refusing to do anything different or new. This signals several interconnected patterns. It's not just about the halt. It's about how we've bought into a rigged narrative that keeps us passive, keeps us believing in the system. We still believe in this system. We still believe in government in spite of every fabric and piece of paper we have seen from the government. Think of the woman in the red dress as a metaphor. Look there. See that X poster in the red dress? She's sharing about the congressional letters we received and deceptive whispers that we are now getting from Congress and senators that they'll help now, or supposedly that's what we're being told. The same old filling out OIG complaint forms, filling out forms for FOIA, and evidence that most likely is going to be deleted on December 8th, 2025. It's a distraction, eroding our ability to think, solve, and find the right solution. What is the real problem? Is it evidence? What is the real problem? Is it enforcement? What is other communities having problems with? Freeze it. Look again. She's transformed into a FINRA SEC agent. This isn't the Matrix? No. It's a program teaching that if you are not one of us, you are one of them. She's the status quo. Leaders rejecting new ideas because you don't seem qualified or you don't talk enough in spaces. Guarding the hierarchy against fresh strategies and fresh eyes. The system, our negative global beliefs, is our enemy. When you're inside, you see businessmen, veterans, everyday people. These are the minds we are trying to save. And yet, they're still part of the system. They look for status quo. They want to follow government rules and what the government wants them to do and play on the government's battlefield. Most aren't ready to unplug. Many are so hopelessly dependent and inured, they will actually fight us and to keep us from getting MMTLP settlement. Because to them, keeping the system and their beliefs intact is more important than MMTLP settlement money. The system's illusion persists because we're trapped in it. We keep playing by their rules, but it's time to question why. Our current strategy is a complete failure. And with the shredding date arriving soon this December looming, MMTLP will be settled by the SEC shredder rules. You cannot battle the invisible hand on its own battlefield at all. Sun Tzu warned that minimize battles on enemy land unless you control the terms. And when we do this, we control no terms with FOIA or OIG or writing in complaints or talking with senators and Congress members in private. We cannot control the terms unless we use direct constitutional tactics. Government controls all the complaint systems. They hold all the keys and barred all the doors. Private meetings and hearings, they can do and say and limit whatever they want. But if you were to do a constitutional sit-in, we can demand face-on-face conversations on live TV and radio. That way they can't weasel or squirm out. If you want control, there's only one way. You need to step outside of their game. Let's recap the MTLP saga quickly. Here's a quick read for you. We'll all know the story, so you can read it yourself. Let's break down the passive tactics our community has relied on so far and why they're leading us nowhere. Things like calling and writing Congress and Senate members, filling out FOIA requests for transparency, submitting OIG complaints to watchdog offices, and endlessly gathering more evidence, petitions, letters. But for 2 years, we've gotten zero results, dead silence. This highlights a classic case of cognitive dissonance. We acknowledge sufficient evidence from 2023 because if it wasn't sufficient enough, we would have never gotten the Congress and Senator letters to begin with. And that's how we absolutely know we have enough evidence, and we had enough evidence in 23. Yet our community insists on collecting even more evidence. And many individuals in our community believes if they get a magical piece of evidence or something exposed, it's all going to come into place and then we'll get settlement. But if you look at GME, AMC, any of the other communities, no matter what evidence they produce in public, no matter what's on social media or even gets on the national news networks, there is no settlement. And no one in our community is concerned about that. But it's not just us. AMC and GME seems to not make that connection as well. Enforcement is the problem, not evidence. We had enough evidence in 2023. At what point will you determine for yourself that what you're doing is not working? Why stick to passive approaches? Well, they're easy, low risk, familiar. It makes you feel productive. You're doing something, but you know you're really not. Safe, and they feed our emotions, giving the illusion that action is real confrontation, giving the illusion that making a post and calling out Congress and senators who aren't even reading this post, it's their staffers. They may even have AI doing it now. But it feels like you're doing that, doesn't it? Over time, they sap our energy, leading to chronic stagnation, burnout, diminished will, as supported by research on self efficacy. It's time to recognize this pattern of failure and stagnation and to pivot to new tactics that will actually force change. The problem is enforcement. This slide captures the deeply rooted attitudes that keeps us locked in ineffective patterns. It's that persistent doubt where everything feels stacked against us, from regulators to our own group dynamics, making real progress seem impossible. We fall into patterns like viewing the whole setup as hopelessly broken and uninterested in small players like us, or accepting that things are faked to fail no matter how many times we try. There's also that wishful, magical, and hope that just one more additional push will finally tip the scales, even when we deep down know what we're doing currently is not leading anywhere, creating inner conflict because we feel there's no alternative. And in our online spaces, these ideas just echo back and forth, just encouraging more the same wait and see approach. But here's the game changer. A constitutional sit in has historically shown an 80% success rate. This will shift the tide for us. It's our call to action. As the classic Pogo comic strip reminds us, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Let's confront these mindsets and conclude with real steps forward to claim the win we deserve. Just take a look at how the mindset on X is playing out right now. It's what I call the victimhood paradox, where we're trapped in a loop that undermines our own community progress. It starts with blindly following and amplifying ideas that are fundamentally flawed, dismissing anything new if it doesn't come from someone that's seen as an insider or an MMTLT community authority figure. End of discussion. No questions asked. Only those with perceived status and long standing tenure in the community or have some form of community approval get to have their word and ideas debated and discussed, which means valuable input from others gets shut down immediately. This dynamic is actively working against our community, turning our group into its own roadblock for achieving things like MMTLP settlement. Deep down, there's a shared agreement that the strategies we are using, the ones with zero chance of a success, are somehow the only options available, even though they've proven useless time and time and time again. It's like convincing ourselves that some form of magic incident or miracle will happen if we just double down on what we're already doing that has already failed for countless times. We cling to hope that persistence alone would turn things around, because persistence is all we have left now. As the classic Pogo cartoon again puts it, we have met the enemy, and he is us. It's just a reminder that our biggest obstacle might just be the self defeating attitudes that we're all reinforcing in our echo chamber. Breaking this paradox means opening up to fresh perspectives, taking new risks, questioning why we are so committed to staying victims instead of becoming victors. How this mindset operates today. This slide illustrates everyday thought patterns that are keeping us in a holding pattern, preventing real breakthroughs for you and our community. It's the routine of piling on more phone outreach, information requests, and informal grievances, even when they've yielded nothing time after time. We're stuck in a loop without questioning why. Where's this built in pushback against trying anything more assertive, labeling it as too dangerous or not needed? One final battle, one final push, and we get our lives back. That's all it takes. This shuts down potential shifts before they even start. We rationalize it by telling ourselves we lack just the perfect proof of evidence, or that one pivotal detail that will finally force a response from government or the SEC or FINRA. But deep down inside, the pattern shows we're chasing an illusion. The other side was never playing fair. The other side never intends to settle. Their end game has always been about securing their gains at our expense, not reversing course. But our community somehow believes everybody's going to reverse course, and they go, oh, it's a big joke. Meanwhile, our shared experiences foster connections through tales of hardship and injustice, like those from long-standing participants. But this emphasis on empathy and outrage distracts from the effective planning and reinforcing a cycle where we expect external fixes that never come. The outcome? Prolonged standstill, exhaustion, depleted drive, and a shift to pessimism and the endless venting, leaving us with nothing but narratives of what we've endured. It's time to recognize this trap and reclaim our momentum. This case study pulls back the curtain on why certain advocates in our MMTLP community keep circling back to strategies that have proven ineffective, wasting precious time and resources, theirs and ours. Take this X post as a prime example. It reveals how Rubio's staff confessed 2 years ago that they knew that the SEC and FINRA are deceiving us, even linking it to several similar issues in 2018 roundtable and the role in the U3 halts. Yet nothing changes. This isn't just oversight, it's a symptom of deeper group dynamics at play. The diagram here maps out classic groupthink pitfalls, starting with an overconfident sense that the group can't be wrong. MMTLP breeds this, and this breeds excessive optimism and risk-taking without backup plans. Members rationalize away warnings by downplaying problems, stereotype outsiders as enemies to justify inaction, theirs and the community's, and self-centered doubts to avoid rocking the boat. There's pressure to conform, creating an illusion that everyone agrees unanimously, while the mind guards shields the group from conflicting information. Ultimately, this feeds and leads into poor decisions, like demonizing dissenters as disloyal and failing to explore alternatives, trapping us in a cycle where real solutions get ignored. Recognizing this complicity is key to breaking free and demanding the accountability we deserve for the success we need now. This slide spotlights a classic psychological pitfall where we double down on approaches that aren't paying off, mainly just to justify all the time and energy we've already sunk in. It's like throwing good effort after bad effort, just to avoid facing that the initial path was a dead end all along. Think of it as like digging deeper into a hole. Explain the first shovelful. In our MMTLP situation, even when key figures like senators and congressmen's team openly admit they've known about the deception for years with no action, this response is still to push for additional outreach, contacts, relationships, and information pools, sidestepping the hard truth that these methods have been fruitless. To counter this trap, the key is to pause and challenge it head on. What proof do we have that ramping up the same thing now will suddenly turn the tide in our favor? For instance, linking back to old discussions where regulators confessed their role in similar halts, yet here we are, still circling the same drain. This is a wake up call to step back and redirect before more resources and our people go to waste. The sunk cost fallacy uncovers another major snare where we treat all the same time and effort already invested as something we can't afford to walk away from, even when it's clear the path isn't leading anywhere positive, essentially turning previous missteps into reasons to keep going rather than pivoting. We've poured countless hours, blood, sweat, and tears into these same loops over and over the past couple of years with zero payoff. Yet we press on, overlooking how the setup is designed to absorb and neutralize our pushes. And we push through. Built-in influencers like big donor ties. For instance, when a key office confesses they've known about the deception for years, we've got to think better. This exposes a sneaky mental hurdle where we hold on to our starting assumptions, no matter what, cherry picking only the information that backs them up, while brushing off anything that doesn't fit. In our MMTLP community world, it's like taking a staffer's admission that they know about the issue as a sign that things are moving forward rather than seeing it as damning proof of what's going on and ongoing neglect by our government. Like those 2018 discussions that highlighted the same problems with no fixes. The diagram here maps out how these biases sneak into choices, from over relying on first impressions to ignoring outliers, seeking out echo chambers for support, or burying our heads in the sand to avoid uncomfortable truths. It all leads to flawed judgment that keeps us spinning our wheels and going nowhere. To fight back, actively hunt for evidence that challenges our views. Ask why. With all this awareness, there is still zero movement. It's the key to snapping out of this trap and pushing for strategies that will actually deliver results to us. Optimism bias and illusion of control. This slide uncovers deceptive mindset where we convince ourselves that good things are bound to happen and that our actions hold more sway than they really do, often ignoring the harsh realities staring us in the face. In our MMTLP efforts, it's like pinning hopes on our knowledge and persistence will magically sway uncaring officials and aligned politicians, even when all signs and evidence points to indifference or outright opposition. The magician visual here perfectly captures that false sense of power, waving a wand and expecting transformation and magic to happen, but ending up with smoke and mirrors. To break free, rigorously question those rosy predictions. Insist on concrete examples where these same methods have actually delivered results and wins before, rather than just assuming this time will be different. After all, 200,000 times we've done something and we still don't have anything to show for it. This slide lays out a series of mental shortcuts and argumentative tricks that sneak into discussions, often keeping groups stuck in unproductive loops. By favoring what's comfortable or discrediting an alternative without fair evaluation. One common issue is the tendency to cling to old habits because they're known, even if they've led to nowhere, much like choosing a well-worn path over an unexplored one that might actually lead to victory. Another, stirring up worries about potential downsides like bad publicity, legal hassles, to scare people away from bolder steps without addressing their actual value. We also see comparisons that stretch the truth, linking reasonable proposals to outrageous extremes to make them seem unreasonable. Personal digs, attacking someone's character or state of mind instead of engaging in their suggestions. And there's the subtle defense of pouring more resources into dead ends, justifying it as a necessary commitment when it's really just avoiding the pain of starting fresh and creating new tactics. The graphic here ties into a broader set of reasoning errors, from personal attacks to assuming one small step leads to a catastrophe, or jumping to conclusions without solid links. Things that can be dismantled with clear-headed analysis and common sense. In our MMTLP efforts, these patterns imply we're often fighting ourselves as much as we're fighting the system. This blocks the path to real breakthroughs and victory. False equivalence and ad hominem attacks. This slide highlights the deceptive tactic where opponents twist comparisons or shift focus to undermine valid ideas without tackling the substance of the idea, often to protect their own stalled viewpoints. It's like drawing parallels between unrelated scenarios to make something sound absurd, equating a peaceful gathering to drastic self-harm or loosely linking it to past movements that don't align at all, ignoring how our focus on core protections and legal foundations sets it apart. Similarly, it involves derailing the discussion by targeting the individual behind the proposal with mocking labels, bypassing the actual points raised. In our MMTLP discussions, this shows up when suggestions get brushed off through loose associations or snared and snide remarks, dodging the solid track record and centered approach that could actually drive progress and victory. Essentially, it's a redirection strategy to get others to buy into narrow, unproductive outlooks that yields nothing and no results. The best response is to steer back to the facts, challenge them for alternatives, backed by real success and irrefutable evidence. I've got mine, and with the right steps, I'm confident this path leads to victory and MMTLP settlement. Global negative beliefs in action. This slide showcases a widespread pessimistic outlook that's taken root in our community, dismissing small-scale investments as unworthy of attention from authorities, portraying overseers as pathetic to legal standards or foundational principles. Such convictions can drive behaviors that perpetuate inactivity, drawing from research on acquired powerlessness, where repeated setbacks train people to expect more of the same, ultimately blocking forward momentum and success. It's a mindset born firsthand or witnessed unfairness in the investment space in our situation, fostering deep skepticism. For those impacted by the disputes like the MMTLP freeze nearly 3 years ago, stemming from a company move that wiped out holdings and amid claims of improper trading and oversight lapse, it leaves folks with empty positions and accusations of unchecked manipulation. From a mental health and scholarly perspective, this points to linked cycles of doubt, resignation that we need to address and reclaim agency and push forward for resolution. Psychological implications of that global negative belief. This slide delves into the mental ripple effect of a deeply pessimistic worldview where skepticism towards authorities runs so strong and deep it shapes how we react and behave. It breeds a profound suspicion that key institutions are flawed or biased against everyday folks, often sparking intense frustration or a sense of giving up, especially when it feels like the rules are bent for the powerful while being ignored for the little guy. This can evolve into seeing every setback as part of a calculated scheme tied to the darker traits or group tendencies that spread unverified ideas that fuel division. In our MMTLP scenario, it manifests as a stories framing the system as prioritizing gains over fairness, keeping retail voices sidelined. Ultimately, it leads to a resigned attitude where efforts seem pointless, encouraging withdrawal from a meaningful involvement or extreme responses, as backed by studies on how perceived unfairness erodes trust and motivation across fields like behavior and academia. Why refusal to consider an 80% win that occurs with a constitutional sit in based on historical results? This slide explores the underlying barriers that make us hesitate to embrace a strategy with such a strong potential for success, rooted in deeply ingrained attitudes and fears that prioritize caution over impact. It often stems from a jaded view that the whole setup is manipulated and dismissive of everyday concerns, leading to a sense that outcomes are inevitable and our efforts are pointless no matter what. But we still want more evidence and we still want to do tactics that don't work. But our efforts are pointless no matter what. There's also that unrealistic expectation that a breakthrough or something magical or miracle will happen just around the corner from one additional push, even without any real evidence or backing. We see resistance to stepping up because of worries about consequences or appearances, opting instead for low stake paths that lead nowhere, that demand little and avoid direct clashes. Unrealistic positivity creeps in, clinging to the idea of an upcoming win with no evidence or proof, just hope and idle belief. Within the group, those pushing for change get targeted as troublemakers, stifling new ideas, while past experiences convince us that bigger shifts happen or don't without drastic measures. Ultimately, it boils down to safeguards on our image and our ego. If things don't pan out, we can always blame the government and external forces rather than admitting it was us. We held back, allowing us to maintain that sense of integrity while the real opportunity of victory and success slips away. We have met the enemy, and he is us. So, why a constitutional sit in has an 80% win rate? This slide breaks down the solid reasons behind a strategy that's proven effective time and time again, offering a path with real odds of turning the tide in our favor immediately this year, not a year down the road. We could do this year. It starts with built in safeguards that make it hard for opponents to shut down, rooted in core freedoms allowing us to demand answers without overstepping. Past examples show how these actions have sparked major shifts in areas like inequality and worker protections, proving they can compel those in power to respond. The strength lies in hitting decision makers head on, drawing in outside scrutiny that ramps up the urgency and visibility. It's designed to be accessible, requiring coordination and leveraging what we already know and the evidence we already have, rather than starting from scratch. Imagine the breakthrough, fast tracking MMTLP resolution, sparking debates on key issues across the market, securing direct involvement in discussions, verifying data we've been denied for 3 years, and finally, piercing the wall of quiet that's protected the status quo. History backs us up with clear wins, like movements that dismantled barriers through persistence, presence. For the full breakdown and evidence, check out my other videos that are coming. It's all there to show why this could be our game changer. Absolutely win. So here's your call to action and conclusion. As we wrap up this video, let's turn insights into movement. Check out my upcoming PowerPoint videos for the in-depth evidence on these ideas. It's crucial to flip our perspective from feeling powerlessness to taking charge, empowering the MMTLP community to set the terms instead of just following orders. Moving forward, let's get practical. Dive into the conversation about these gatherings in our online spaces and figure out the details to make them happen. The timing couldn't be more urgent. December 8th is almost here. But also, with Thanksgiving and Christmas, that means time of family. And if we do a constitutional sit-in, that falls straight into the holiday season, and that will give us even more power. But with December 8th coming up, what if key data points were vanished forever, making nearly a full cycle of setbacks? FINRA goes into court and says, we don't have the evidence. You can't match their evidence to ours. End the story, and they walk away. Enough is enough. This is our moment to demand transformation. In closing, remember, sticking to the grind without a target push leads to nowhere. Stay tuned for additional content. And here is a powerful reminder. Your beliefs shape your reality. If you convince yourself success is out of reach, you will unknowingly block every chance to achieve it. But if you shift that inner voice, then you'll unlock what's truly possible.